Okay, now we are going to get into rigging our mesh here. So the way we want to do that is we're going to add some bones. We're going to add some bones just to avoid weight painting and having to get into that. I'm just going to add bones that are going to be useless bones. That way when we add automatic weights to it, the algorithm will figure things properly, and we don't have to go through a lot of extra work. It's not the ideal way to do it, but it's the way I'm going to do it for the sake of time. So to get started here, let's see. Well, one thing we want to do, let me back up a little bit. All right. Make sure screencasting is on. It is. Okay, and that's the N panel. That's your properties panel, just in case you don't know. Press N to bring up the properties. Oh, another thing too, just as a reminder, you may want to save your progress so far if you followed through the first video. I forgot to remind others of that. I've already done that here, but you can go up to File and Save As, or you can just press Control S and click on that, and it will save too. That's the shortcut key. Okay, let's get started here. So one, numpad view, or front view, and let's put this cursor here. Wherever you put it, when you add a new object, that's where it will appear. So we're going to we need to add a bone on this side and add a bone on this side. So let's just go ahead and start with that. Press Shift and A, and armature, under armature, go to single bone. Now you don't see anything right now, but if I press Z, it is inside the mesh, and well, slightly outside the mesh. We'll pull it inside a bit. But in order to see that, what you want to do with the bone selected, you want to go over here to your properties panel, and under object data, this little man up here, click on that. Go down here to X-ray and click on that, and now you can see it through the mesh. Okay, so what we want to do now that we have our bone selected is we want to tab into edit mode, and I'm going to bring the top of this. Actually, I'm going to go to side view. I'm going to hit not 3, because 3 brings me to this side, to the right perspective. I want to go to the left perspective, so I'm going to push Control 3. Hold down Control and numpad 3, brings you to the other side. So Control will flip you around. Same thing works with 1. Here's front view. Control 1 brings you to the back view. 7 will bring you to the top view. Control 7 to the bottom. So Control 3 is what we want for the left. And just to show you where that is, see? Okay, so Control 3. I'm going to select this bone. I'm going to move it all the way to the back, right about there. Put it toward the bottom, and then grab the top and drag it straight up. Okay, and you know what? We might move this forward just a little bit, right about there. It doesn't have to be right up against the back. And this is probably a little too tall. Let's bring it down just a bit. In fact, we'll bring it down right about there, because we're going to have one on top as well. So now what we want to do is go to front view, and we're going to select that whole bone. For some reason that doesn't, oh yeah, that's right. Okay, front view, select that whole bone, and now we're going to press Shift D, and that duplicates it. Now if you move your mouse, you'll see it's duplicated that bone. But what we want to do is we want to only move it along the X-axis. So if you press X, now you no matter where you move the mouse, it'll only go back and forth on that axis. So we're going to put one about center. In fact, we're going to move this one back just a bit. and take off, okay, take off the X-ray so we can see it's inside the mesh. So we want it just slightly inside the mesh. Let's go back to 1 to front view, turn on X-ray. So yeah, that was about right where it was before. That looks about center. And now we're going to do the same thing, Shift and D and duplicate again, X-axis, and move that to right about there. Okay, now if we make sure we're inside the mesh, and we are, and 7 for top perspective, we can see right where we're at. And that looks good. Okay, back to 1, and let's go back to solid view and turn on X-ray again. Okay, we've got those bones, those 3 bones there. This middle bone, I'm going to make this the root bone. But before I start naming them all, I'm just going to go ahead and set up the bones. So let's go ahead and duplicate this one here. It doesn't really matter which one you duplicate, they're all the same. And set that right up about there. And then we're going to hit R for rotate. And then on our numpad, we're going to put in 90 for 90 degrees. And rotate it 90 degrees. And now, I'm going to bring that down inside the box and line it up there. And yeah, it looks fine. Leave that right about there. 7 for top view. And what we're going to do is we're going to move this a little more center. So put that about center of the box. Somewhere right there. Now these bones really are not going to do anything. They're only useful for the purpose of so I don't have to weight paint. Okay, so that looks about right. And remember, Z takes you into wireframe mode, so you can see things. Let's go back to 1. And now we are going to turn on X-ray again. I just keep turning the X-ray off so I make sure that the bones are inside the mesh, not sticking out of it. Not real critical, but it's got to be mostly in the mesh. But I prefer not to have any sticking out, at least at that point. Okay, now let's see. I'm going to have 2 more bones on the side. But before we do that, let's start with the mouth. Let's get the mouth bones. So let's select this one again. And let's go to side view, control numpad 3. So we're on the left perspective. Let's hit Shift and D to duplicate. And then left click with your mouse button. That way you don't move the bone. So really there's 2 bones right there now, one on top of the other. And now if you hit R to rotate and then 90 degrees, 90, punch that in on your numpad, hit enter, and then move this one forward, right about there. Press 1 on the numpad to go to front view. Just kind of get a perspective here, make sure we're about center of the mouth is where we want to be with the bone. And we'll go down a little, just a touch. It's close enough. Okay. Now what we want to do is we want to leave, we want to just move the back of this bone forward. So just click that little ball there and move it somewhere in there. And then the front one, we're going to move forward too. And we're going to move up. Well, actually, let's just move it up for now. Just hit 1 for front view. And yeah, that looks about right. Now hit take the X-ray off so we can see it better. And Just grab this on the y-axis here, pull it back just where the ball is sticking out. That's fine. And put it right level, where that line's level with the top of that red. And that's fine too. So now, you know what, I might move this. We'll move this whole bone. Okay. Don't know if I'm selecting it. I'm not. Am I not selecting that? There we go. Let's move this whole bone over just a tad. Take the x-ray off so I can see it better. All right. And right about there looks more centered, doesn't it? Okay. That looks good. Now, what we'll do is turn x-ray back on, and we will go back to Control 3 to our side view, and then Shift D, duplicate, left click so we don't move it, and then we're just going to grab the ball. It don't matter if we grab the one that we just duplicated or the first one. They're both going to be the same, and then we're just going to move that one down, just like that, because we want this to be pivot on the same point. So let's go back to front perspective, turn off the x-ray, move this down to about there. Let's go to the side, let's kind of scroll around, make sure it looks right. That looks about right. Okay. Now, turn x-ray back on. And now let's make a chin bone. So Control 3, take this one. Well, let's take this one here. That one. Control 3. Shift D, duplicate. Left click. R to rotate 90 degrees. Enter. Move it down on the Z axis and forward on the Y. Somewhere like that. Let's see. We can also hit S to size it, which is fine. Let's do that. And let's move it up just slightly at an angle. But it's got to be, it doesn't have to be perfect. Okay. Let's take the x-ray off again. And that looks about right. And let's center that up just a little better. So get it right underneath that other bone, right about there. And we could center up this backbone a bit. All the center ones are the most important ones right there. Okay, now we can add a couple, well, we got, let's see, about 4 bones left. So now we want to add, let me check this again. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Okay, now we got to add well, we want to go from the center again. So let's select one of these. Select this bone here. Hit 1, and then Shift D, and then just left click again, and then just hit the select the ball of one of them. This is why I'm not naming any of them either, too, so it doesn't matter which one I move. And we're going to go to the edge of the lips with that. So let's turn the x-ray off. And Let's move it just past it. Somewhere in there. That's good. Should be good. Okay, and turn X-ray back on. Think we're good there. And now, let's do the same thing again. Just click on this bone, yeah, that'll work. Shift D, left click, and right click on the ball of one of these, and then pull it over on the X-axis, and then drop it down the Z. Go back to front view, turn off X-ray, and line it up about there. Okay, we're almost done. Now, 2 more bones we got to put in here. There's control bones. So control 3, take this bone here, Shift D, duplicate, and then on the Y-axis, move it forward to about there. And maybe move it back just a little. Okay. And then 1 for front view, and then just Shift D, duplicate, and then run that on the X-axis over to the other side, just like so. And now, turn X-ray off, make sure we're not sticking out like we are. Just push that in, and we should be good. Okay, that should be all for placing the bones. Really, the only bones that are going to move are these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mouth bones, and then the root bone. You can also set up the move, but in our experiment, it's really not going to be used. But let's go ahead and start naming these. So let's click on the root. Start with that. Go over here to our properties panel, and on bone, click on bone, and then select that there and name it root. And then we are going to, I'm not really going to name the rest of these because these are useless bones, so I'm not worried about them. Just going to name the important ones here. So let's name this one here. Name this one chin. And then we will name this one mouth right. And you might wonder why I'm naming it right when it's on the left. Well, if you're facing forward, it would be on its right. So that would be the right side of the mesh. And then this one over here would be mouth left. Okay. And then this top one would be mouth upper. And the bottom one, you guessed it, mouth lower. Okay, so the main bones are named, and now we can start associating all of them to the root bone. So each one of these bones has to be parented to the root. And the way we do that is just select on a bone like we just did, and go over here to the properties panel where it says parent. Go down there and select root, but we don't see it here. Now we can either scroll down with a scroll wheel and select root, which I just did, or like on this next bone, I could just click that and just type in root. And make sure that connected is not checked. You don't want to do that. See, if I connect it, you see what it just did there. It just connected this to the root bone going that way. That's not what we want. So we want to undo that, Control Z. Okay, so, and you see the lines that are drawn here, they go from this root bone here down to each bone. And it shows they're not connected, but they are parented. So let's just continue to do this for all the bones. Root and root. See, let's get this top one. Yeah. Root. Root. Okay, I believe that they are all. Yeah. Okay. They are all parented. And now we want to save this, so Control S and just save that. That way if Blender crashes, we are safe. And we are just about done with our rigging. Now all we have to do is attach the mesh to the rig. That's called skinning. And the way to do that is, so we don't have to weight paint it, the easy way to do that is tab out of edit mode and select our box. And then with our box selected, hold down shift and select our bones, our armature. And by doing that, then we just hit Control P and it's set parent to, and we want to go armature deform with automatic weights. And now it should apply the proper amount of weighting to each bone. And let's test it out by going to pose mode with the bones and just select one of these bones that we want to move. Let's rotate by hitting R and hit X, so we rotate it on the X-axis. And let's take off X-ray so we can see it better. And as you can see, this bone is now moving that part of the mesh. This bone moving this part. This bone moving this part. Oops. Let's go. Oh, there we go. This bone moving this part. And this bone moving this part. And it's not the reason why we put all the other bones in there, so they don't affect the back. Otherwise, this bone would be would be associated with all of this back here. For more advanced users, you'd understand what I mean. But for anyone that's doing this is a noob, you may not understand. Okay, now, one more thing I forgot. We want to do some inverse kinematics. One thing I want to do is just select all the bones by hitting A twice. A deselects all, and then A again selects all. And now we want to reset everything, so we want to hit Alt and G, and then Alt and R. And that sets everything that you grabbed and moved, it resets it, and everything you rotated, it'll reset that too. By Alt R resets the rotation, and Alt G resets the location by grabbing. Okay, now that we have that, this is our rest pose, by the way. I'm gonna just real quick, I want to show you that too. If you grab one of the bones, this bone here, oh, yeah, and we rotate it, let's say like this. If you go over here to your properties panel and press rest, it'll go back to where it was before. But pose, it is posed like this. Now we want to Alt R and reset that. But the reason why that is because whatever you do in edit mode, when you tab in edit mode with the armature selected, wherever you put those bones is where your rest position will be. And then anytime you pose it after that, it will be a pose position. And you cannot pose if you have this selected in rest. You can grab it and it won't do anything. R to rotate, it doesn't do anything. Okay, so having covered that, let's do some inverse kinematics real quick. And inverse kinematics, the way it works is we're going to add bones that will control these other bones. These bones will track the movement of another bone. We want to do that one thing. We want to take X-ray back off. And what we're going to do is just take a bone. Actually, we're just going to add a new bone. That's what we're going to do. Oh, and by the way, too, before I get into your root bone here, will control the whole mesh. So if you rotate it, the whole mesh will move. And that is the point of the root. And in facial mocap, if you want your head to move, you got to add a marker for the root, so it will move with that marker. Okay, now inverse kinematics. Let's let's hide those again, because we're only work with these bones here that we can see now. So what we're going to do first is let's go 1, and let's set our cursor. If I can get our there, that's close enough, and hit 3. Oh, and set the cursor somewhere out here. That way the cursor is in front of the box. Let's hit 7. Center it up a little bit better. Okay, there. And now Shift and A and add a bone. Oh, can't do that in pose mode. You're going to tab to edit mode. Shift A, and it adds another bone. S to size it down. Oh, select the whole bone. S to size it down. It doesn't need to be that big. And then and let's see, Control 3, R to rotate, and then 90. Let's get it moving in the same direction as the other bone, and move that down some. Just kind of line it up with this bone back here. And now what we're going to do is just duplicate this several times and make these control bones or targets. So let's see, 1 to go into front view, and then Shift D to duplicate. Move 1 over here. Shift D, duplicate. Move 1 over here. Shift D, duplicate. Move it over here. Shift D, duplicate. Move 1 down here. So now we should have bones in front of all the. These are control bones that will control all the bones here for the mouth and the chin. So now we can name these respectively. So let's select this here and click on bone here in the properties panel and rename this as chin control. And then let's see this. If I can get it to select, this would be mouth lower control. I can't get that to select either. There we go. This is mouth upper control. And this would be mouth right control, and mouth left control. Okay, now we'll save it again just to be safe. Got all those bones set up. And now we can set up our inverse kinematics. And that is very simple to do. We just click on the bone we want, like this one here, mouth right, and go over here to, we got to get out of edit mode, so tab out of edit mode. And then go over here to bone constraints. Click on that. Go down to inverse kinematics. Select that. Select our target. Our target is an armature. And then we got to select the bone in that armature. And it's not showing up. There it is. Okay, now the bone we want for this, since this is mouth right, we want mouth right control. So we want that right there. Okay. And it just, the whole box moved forward and it looks all funky. And you think, oh, it's all messed up. It didn't work. Well, it did. The problem is the chain length. We need to set our chain length to 1. And the reason, what the chain length does is it, try how to explain this. Well, it just shows how many bones this thing controls. Does this bone here control just the mouth right bone, or does it go all the way back to the root? Well, right now, if you have it set to 0, 0 is uses all bones. So 0 would go back to the root. But otherwise, you can specify the number in the length of the chain. And in this case, we only want 1. 2 would actually go back to the root. So 0 in this case would be root, and 2 would be root. So we got to do that with each one of these. All right, so now let's select this one here, go down to inverse kinematics, select our armature, then select our bone, which would be, well, this is mouth upper, so we want mouth upper control. And then set our chain length to 1. And then do this again. Oh, wrong one. Okay, this is mouth left, so we go to inverse kinematics, armature. Give that time to pop up with a bone there. And then go down to, what did I say, mouth left control right there. Set it to 1. Now, this is mouth lower, inverse kinematics, armature, and mouth lower control, which would be right there, and chain length to 1. And did we do that for the chin? No, we didn't. Okay, chin is inverse kinematics, armature. There it is. And then chin control. Set it to 1. Okay, now we should be, I believe we are all okay. Now let's go back into edit mode real quick, and let's adjust these just a bit. Actually, they don't look too bad. Yeah, I'm gonna leave them alone. Yeah, I might move them all forward. Move all the control bones forward just a bit. Just move them just a little further away. Yeah, maybe not too far. That's good. Okay. Now, as you can see, we'll show you what happens. If I grab one of these control bones and move it up and down, see, it will control that. Now I can also limit the distance on it, which comes in handy, but it's not really necessary, and I'll save that for another tutorial. This basically is all we need to do to move on to the next part, which is what this tutorials are all about, and that is facial mocap. So let's go ahead and save it now where we're at, and I will see you in the next video.